Park Ji-woo stared at the message screen in her dormitory room, reading the same words over and over. The letters seemed to blur together, but the meaning stayed sharp and painful. Earth was gone, not destroyed, not invaded, simply gone. She sat on her narrow bed at Kepler Academy, holding the data pad with shaking hands. The official council report was only 3 lines long. Solar System Terra 3 no longer registered on any monitoring equipment. All communication with the system had ceased 48 hours ago. Investigation teams were being dispatched. Ji-woo had been studying alien languages for 2 years at the academy. She was one of only 12 human students among thousands of alien species. Her father had been proud when she received acceptance. He said it would help humans build better relationships with the galaxy. Now her father was gone, along with every human on Earth. A soft knock came at her door. Ji-woo wiped her eyes and opened it. Her roommate Kayla stood there, her blue skin darker than usual with worry. The Andorian female had been kind to Ji-woo since the first day. "I heard the news," Kayla said quietly. "I am sorry about your world." Ji-woo nodded, but could not speak. Kayla stepped into the room and sat beside her on the bed. They sat in silence for a long time. Outside the window, the binary stars of the Kepler system cast strange shadows across the academy grounds. "What will you do now?" Kayla asked. "I do not know," Ji-woo answered. "The council said they are investigating. Maybe they will find something." But deep inside, Ji-woo felt something wrong about the whole situation. Earth had not been answering communications for weeks before this. The last message from her father had been strange. He told her to study hard and remember that sometimes people have to leave their old homes to find better ones. At the time, she thought he was just being philosophical. Her father always said mysterious things like that. Now she wondered if he knew something was going to happen. On the other side of the galaxy, Kim Dong-wook received the same news while working on mining Platform 7. He was deep in the asteroid belt, fixing broken extraction equipment when his supervisor called him to the communications room. Dong-wook had been working in space for 5 years. He sent most of his pay back to Earth to help his younger sister go to school. Now there was no Earth to send money to and no sister to receive it. The mining platform had 37 workers from different species. Dong-wook was the only human. When he walked back to the workshop after hearing the news, everyone stopped talking. They looked at him with a mixture of pity and curiosity. "Sorry about your planet, human," said Vrak, a large reptilian creature who operated the heavy machinery. "Must be hard." Dong-wook nodded and went back to work. He did not know what else to do. His hands moved automatically, fixing the broken equipment while his mind tried to process what had happened. How did an entire solar system just disappear? He remembered the last video message from his sister. She had seemed excited about something but would not say what. She kept talking about a surprise that would change everything for humans. Dong-wook had assumed she meant her studies or maybe a new job. Now he wondered if she knew about whatever happened to Earth. In the capital system of the Galactic Council, emergency meetings were happening in chambers across the massive space station. Council member Vextar of the Hegemony paced around the central discussion pit, his 4 arms gesturing wildly as he spoke. "The humans finally did it," he said to the other council members. "We all knew they were too aggressive, too dangerous. They probably destroyed themselves with some terrible weapon." "The sensor data does not support that theory," replied Council Member Thyra, her insectoid voice clicking through the translator. "There is no debris, no radiation, no gravitational disturbance. It is as if the entire system was simply removed." "Removed by what?" asked Council Member Borax, his rocky form shifting with concern. "What technology could do such a thing?" The council chamber fell silent. None of them had an answer. In all the recorded history of the galaxy, nothing like this had ever happened. Planets were destroyed by war or natural disasters. Solar systems died when their stars collapsed. but they always left evidence behind. "Perhaps we should investigate the scattered human populations," suggested Thyra. "There are still several hundred humans living and working throughout the galaxy. They might have information." Vextar's eyes narrowed. "Yes, we should question them immediately. If the humans develop some kind of dangerous technology, we need to know about it." But when Council security forces began looking for humans to question, they found something disturbing. Many of the humans who had been living on Council worlds were gone. Not missing or kidnapped. Simply gone, like they had packed up and left in the middle of the night. Human apartments stood empty with no signs of struggle. Human workers had failed to show up for their jobs. Human students had left their schools without notice. It was as if they had all received the same message at the same time and decided to disappear. On a trading station near the Galactic Rim, Captain Choi Min-ho of the merchant vessel New Seoul heard about Earth while loading cargo. His small crew of 4 humans had been running supplies between outer colonies for 3 years. They were some of the few humans who chose to live permanently in space rather than on planets. "Captain," said his navigator, Lee Kyung-ho, "we just received a priority message from the Council. They want to speak with all human ship captains immediately." Min-ho frowned. The Council rarely bothered with independent merchants unless there was trouble. He read the message and felt his stomach drop. Earth was gone, and the Council wanted to question all humans about what might have happened. "Set course for the nearest Council station," Min-ho ordered. But as his ship turned toward the inner systems, he noticed something on his long-range sensors. There were at least 6 other human ships in the area, all heading in the same direction, away from Council space. Min-ho tried to contact them, but none of the ships answered his calls. They just kept flying toward the empty regions of space where no one lived or worked. It was as if they knew something he did not. As New Seoul approached the Council station, Min-ho made a decision that would change his life. Instead of docking for questioning, he changed course and followed the other human ships into the dark. Behind him, the Council station sent angry messages demanding that he return, but Min-ho ignored them all. Something told him that the other humans knew where they were going, and that following them was more important than answering the Council's questions. In the depths of space, humanity's greatest secret was beginning to unfold. 6 months had passed since Earth disappeared. The galaxy had slowly returned to its normal routine, but strange reports were coming from the outer rim territories. Ship captains spoke of empty spaces where nothing existed, not darkness filled with distant stars, but perfect spheres of absolute nothingness. Dr. Han So-young worked late in her laboratory on Council Station Prime. She was one of the few humans who had chosen to stay and cooperate with the Council investigation. Her specialty was quantum physics, and the Council hoped she could explain what happened to her home world. The data spread across her workstation made no sense. 3 different exploration teams had found the same thing in remote sectors of space. Perfect spherical voids where matter simply did not exist. Each void was exactly the same size as a solar system. "Computer, show me the quantum readings from the Outer Rim Survey," So-young said to her terminal. The screen filled with energy patterns that made her heart race. The edges of each void showed quantum signatures she had never seen before. It was as if reality itself had been cut away, leaving a hole in the fabric of space. Her door chimed, and Council member Thyra entered the lab. The insectoid female clicked nervously as she approached the workstation. "Dr. Han, have you made any progress on understanding these anomalies?" Thyra asked. "I have a theory," So-young replied carefully, "but you will not like it." "Tell me." So-young pulled up a 3-dimensional model of one of the voids. "These are not the result of destruction. They are exits. Someone or something is translating entire solar systems into parallel dimensions." Thyra's compound eyes widened. "That is impossible. The energy required would be enormous. No known civilization has such technology." No known civilization, So Young repeated quietly. But what if there was an unknown one? On Terminus 7th, an archaeological dig site at the edge of council space, Dr. Yoon Da-hee brushed dust from ancient stone carvings. She had been studying the ruins for 2 years, trying to understand the civilization that built them. The builders had vanished long before any current galactic species evolved. The carvings showed strange symbols and pictures that seemed to tell a story. Da-hee had been making progress translating them when Earth disappeared. Now, looking at them again, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The symbols showed a cycle. Advanced civilizations would rise, reach a certain point of development, and then simply vanish. But they did not die or get destroyed. According to the carvings, they stepped beyond the veil into what the ancient text called the higher realm. Professor Kim? She called to her research partner, an elderly human man who had been working on other parts of the dig site. You need to see this. Professor Kim Tae-ho walked over, his weathered face showing concern. He had been an archaeologist for 40 years and had never seen anything like these ruins. Look at this sequence. Da-hee pointed to a series of carvings on the wall. This symbol represents advanced technology. This one represents a choice, and this one represents departure to another realm of existence. Kim studied the symbols carefully. How many times does this cycle repeat in the carvings? 7 complete cycles that I can identify. Maybe more that are too damaged to read clearly. 7 civilizations that just vanished when they became advanced. Enough? Da-hee nodded. And look at this. She pointed to a carving near the bottom of the wall. This symbol appears to represent the current galactic civilization, the council species. Kim's face went pale. And what comes after that symbol? The same pattern: technology, choice, and departure. They stood in silence, staring at the ancient, warnings carved in stone. Finally, Kim spoke. Do you think the humans found these ruins somewhere else? Do you think they learned about the cycle? Before Da-hee could answer, her communication device beeped. A message was coming through from deep space, using old human communication codes that most aliens could not understand. Far from any inhabited system, Captain Choi Min-ho piloted his ship through the empty darkness between stars. He had been following the other human vessels for months, staying far enough behind to avoid detection, but close enough to track their quantum signatures. His navigator, Lee Kyung-ho, monitored the sensors from his station. Captain, we are approaching coordinates that match one of those void reports. Min-ho leaned forward in his command chair. All stop. Passive sensors only. On the main screen, space looked normal. Stars twinkled in the distance, and gas clouds drifted slowly through the cosmic wind. But the sensors told a different story. There was a perfectly spherical area ahead of them where absolutely nothing existed. Captain, Kyung-ho said quietly, I am picking up faint quantum signatures from inside the void. They match human communication protocols. From inside the void? That should be impossible. Yes, sir, but the signals are definitely there. Min-ho made a decision that went against all his training as a merchant captain. Send a standard greeting using human protocols. Low power, directional beam only. Kyung-ho worked at his console for several minutes, then looked up. Message sent. Captain. They waited. Minutes passed with no response. Then, just as Min-ho was about to give up, the sensors detected something impossible. A reply signal emerged from the void, using the same human protocols, but the message was not words or data. It was a simple mathematical sequence that any human child would recognize. The Fibonacci sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. They are telling us they are human, Kyung-ho whispered. Send back the next numbers in the sequence, Min-ho ordered. They transmitted 21, 34, 55. Again they waited. This time the response came faster. But it was not more numbers. It was a single word in Korean that made both men's hearts race. Gidei. Wait. Back on Council Station Prime, Dr. Han So-young was working through the night when her computer detected something unusual. Deep space monitoring stations were picking up faint quantum fluctuations in 17 different sectors. The patterns were too regular to be natural phenomena. She ran the data through every analysis program she had. The results showed that something was creating controlled quantum disturbances across a vast area of space. The disturbances formed a network like nodes in some kind of communication system. Computer, overlay these quantum signatures with known human ship positions from before Earth disappeared. The display showed her worst fears confirmed. Every quantum disturbance matched the location where human ships, colonies, or research stations had been 6 months ago. It was as if humanity had left behind a network of quantum beacons. So-young realized that Earth's disappearance was not the end of humanity's story. It was just the beginning of something much larger and more complex than anyone had imagined. In the depths of space, hidden signals pulsed between dimensions, carrying messages that would soon change the fate of every species in the galaxy. 1 year after Earth vanished, automated monitoring stations across the galaxy suddenly came alive. These stations had been built by humans decades ago, disguised as simple weather monitors and communication relays. Now they all broadcast the same message at exactly the same time. Phase 1 complete. Preparing for extraction. The message repeated in 17 different languages, including several that the Council had never heard before. Then the stations went silent again, leaving every government in the galaxy scrambling to understand what it meant. On the industrial world of Corax Prime, Kang Woo-jin heard the broadcast while working in a factory that built starship engines. He had been hiding his identity as a human for 8 months, using fake documents that listed him as a mixed-species refugee. The other workers thought he was part Terran and part something else. When the message played over the factory's communication system, Woo Jin felt something cold in his stomach. He recognized the voice. It belonged to Admiral Lee Sang-min, the former head of Earth's defense forces, a man who was supposed to be dead along with the rest of humanity. Woo Jin left work early, claiming he felt sick. He walked through the crowded streets of the factory district, his mind racing. The message was clearly meant for humans who had survived Earth's disappearance. But what did extraction mean? In his small apartment, Woo Jin opened a hidden compartment in his wall. Inside was a communication device that he had never used. It looked like a simple emergency beacon, but the technology was far more advanced than anything the Council possessed. The device had been given to him 3 years ago by a human intelligence officer. At the time, Woo Jin thought it was just standard spy equipment. Now he realized it might be something much more important. On the other side of the galaxy, Im Ye-jin sat in a cyber cafe on the trade world of Nexus Station. She was one of the best hackers in the outer systems, and she specialized in breaking into government databases. Most people thought she was just a criminal looking for profit. They did not know she was gathering intelligence for humanity. The broadcast message had triggered something in her personal computer system. Hidden files began unlocking themselves, revealing data that she had been collecting for years without knowing what it was for. The files contained detailed information about every major government, military installation, and technology center in the galaxy. But more than that, the files showed her something shocking. Earth's exile from the galactic community had been humanity's own idea. The official records showed that human diplomats had requested isolation, claiming they needed time to develop their society peacefully. It was all a lie, Ye-jin whispered to herself as she read through the documents. We were never exiled. We asked to be left alone. The files revealed that humanity had been planning their disappearance for over 50 years. Every human diplomat, trader, student, and worker had been part of a massive intelligence operation. They had been studying galactic civilization not to join it, but to understand how to escape from it. Nam Jae-hyun was drinking alone in a bar on the mining world of Asteroid Base 7 when the broadcast played. He had been a pilot in Earth's defense forces before becoming a freelance cargo hauler. Most people avoided him because he had a reputation for being dangerous and unpredictable. When he heard Admiral Lee's voice, Jae-hyun's hand went automatically to a scar on his neck. The scar covered a small device that had been implanted years ago. At the time, military doctors told him it was a medical monitor. Now it was beginning to warm up, and he could feel a strange tingling sensation. Jae-hyun paid for his drink and walked outside. The implant was definitely active now, sending signals that he could feel in his bones. He looked up at the stars and wondered how many other humans were feeling the same thing. On Council Station Prime, emergency meetings were happening around the clock. Council member Vexitar paced around the central chamber, his 4 arms waving, as he spoke to the assembled representatives. "The humans planned this," he said angrily. "Their entire species was involved in some kind of conspiracy against galactic civilization." "But what was their goal?" asked Council member Thyra. "Why would they want to disappear?" Dr. Han So-young stood at the edge of the chamber, listening to the debate. She had been analyzing the broadcast message and had discovered something that terrified her. The transmission had come from everywhere at once. Every human installation, every location where humans had lived or worked, had sent the signal simultaneously. "Council members," she said, stepping forward, "I need to report something important." The chamber fell silent. Vexitar gestured for her to continue. The broadcast signal came from over 3,000 different locations across the galaxy. Many of these were places where humans had lived decades ago. Some were locations that we thought were just empty space. "What does that mean?" Thera asked. "It means humanity has been building a network for a very long time. They have technology hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting for activation." The implications were staggering. If humans had been secretly building installations for decades, what else had they been planning? How much did they really know about galactic civilization? "There is more," So-young continued. "I have detected quantum signatures suggesting that this network is designed for dimensional translation, the same technology that created the voids." Back on Corax Prime, Kang Woo-jin made a decision. He activated the communication device in his apartment and waited. Within minutes, a response came through. It was not words, but a set of coordinates and a time. The coordinates led to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Woo-jin arrived at the specified time and found 12 other people waiting. They all looked nervous, but he could tell from their posture and the way they moved that they were all trained military personnel. "You are all human," said a woman who stepped out of the shadows. Woo-jin recognized her from old military records. She was Colonel Park Min-jung, supposedly killed in a training accident 5 years ago. "The time for hiding is over," Min-jung said to the group. "Humanity needs us to complete the mission." "What mission?" asked one of the men. Min-jung smiled. "We are going to save every thinking species in this galaxy, whether they want to be saved or not." She activated a device that projected a holographic star map. It showed the locations of every major civilization in the galaxy with human infiltration points marked in red. There were thousands of them. "For 50 years we have been studying this galaxy," Min-jung explained. "We discovered something that the Council has been hiding, something that will destroy every advanced species unless we act soon." The hologram changed, showing ancient star charts and mathematical equations that hurt to look at directly. "Every few million years, this galaxy is purged," Min-jung continued. "An automated system destroys all advanced civilizations, leaving only the primitive ones to start over. The Council knows about it, but they think they can control it. They are wrong. The next purge cycle begins in 18 months. Unless we get every thinking species out of this galaxy before then, they will all die." Wu Jin felt the pieces falling into place. Earth had not disappeared out of fear or aggression. They had escaped to build a rescue operation for the entire galaxy. How do we save billions of beings? He asked. Minjung's smile grew wider. The same way we saved ourselves. We translate them to a parallel dimension where the purge system cannot reach them. Around the galaxy, similar meetings were taking place. Humans who had been hiding for months were revealing themselves and organizing. The real mission was about to begin. The truth spread through the galaxy like a virus. Hidden human agents activated across thousands of worlds, revealing installations that had been disguised as simple research stations, trading posts, and diplomatic offices for decades. Each installation contained technology beyond anything the Council had seen. On the academic world of Centauri 7, Professor Oh Seung-ho stood before a lecture hall filled with alien students. For 20 years, he had taught philosophy at the university. His classes were famous for their discussions about consciousness, reality, and the nature of existence. Students came from across the galaxy to hear his ideas. Today's lecture was different. Instead of theoretical discussions, Oh Seung-ho was revealing practical applications. What I have taught you over the years was not just philosophy, he said calmly. It was a technical manual disguised as abstract thought. The students looked, confused. Oh, Seung-ho activated a holographic projector that he had never used before. Complex equations filled the air above his desk. Consciousness is not just awareness, he continued. It is a dimensional key. Every thinking mind exists partially in parallel dimensions. This is what allows imagination, dreams, and creativity to function. A Zephyrian student raised her tentacle. Professor, what does this have to do with philosophy? Everything, Oh Seung-ho replied. When a civilization learns to use consciousness as a tool, they can translate their entire existence to dimensions where physical laws are different, where growth and evolution have no limits. The equations in the hologram began moving, showing how thoughts could be converted into dimensional energy. The students watched in amazement as their philosophy teacher revealed himself to be one of the galaxy's most advanced scientists. The poems I assigned you to memorize, Oh Seung-ho said, with a smile, were actually mathematical formulas. The meditation exercises we practiced were consciousness training. You have all been learning how to escape this dimension without knowing it. On the industrial world of Ford Station, Bae-yun-ji looked out at the crowd of beings gathered in the abandoned factory district. There were humans, but also Andorians, Zephyrians, hegemony refugees, and dozens of other species. All of them had received the same message through hidden communication networks. Your governments have lied to you, Yunji announced, her voice carried by hidden speakers throughout the district. They know that this galaxy operates on a cycle of destruction. Every advanced civilization is eventually purged by an ancient, automated system. Angry voices rose from the crowd. Many of the aliens refused to believe that their leaders would hide such information. The Council is not evil, Yunji continued. They are scared. They think that by keeping civilizations at a certain level of development, they can avoid triggering the purge system. But they are wrong. The system is already activated. The countdown has begun. She activated a massive holographic display that showed the galaxy from above. Pulsing red lights marked locations where the purge system was beginning to awaken. Ancient. Machines that had slept for millions of years were starting to move. We offer you a choice, Yunji said. Stay here and face extinction with your governments, or join us in a new dimension where you can grow and evolve without limits. A hegemony soldier stepped forward from the crowd. How do we know you are telling the truth? How do we know this? Is not some human trick? Unji smiled sadly. Because we are giving you the same choice we gave ourselves, and we are offering it freely, with no strings attached. She pressed a control on her wrist device. Throughout the factory district, hidden installations revealed themselves. Quantum dimensional gateways began forming, creating shimmering portals that showed glimpses of other realities. "These gateways will remain open for 72 hours, Yunji announced. "Anyone who wants to leave can do so. Anyone who wants to stay is free to make that choice." In the depths of space, Go Hyun-woo worked frantically in the engineering section of a massive cloaked vessel. The ship was larger than most space stations, built in secret over the past 50 years using resources gathered by human agents throughout the galaxy. The dimensional translation device at the heart of the ship was the most complex machine ever, built by any species. It could create stable gateways between dimensions, allowing entire populations to migrate to parallel realities. "Status report," called Captain Ryu Sang-wook from the bridge. "Primary generators at 97%, Hyun-woo replied through the communication system. "Dimensional anchors are stable. We can begin large-scale translations within 6 hours. What about the council fleets?" "They are moving toward our known installations, but they are too late. Most of our people and equipment have already been relocated." On the bridge, Sang-wook looked at the tactical display showing council ships rushing toward empty human facilities. The council was finally beginning to understand the scope of humanity's plan, but they were reacting too slowly. "Sir," reported the navigation officer, "we are receiving activation signals from human agents on over 4,000 worlds. They are ready to begin offering dimensional translation to local populations." Sang-wook nodded grimly. The next phase would be the most dangerous. Once the council realized that humans were actively recruiting other species to leave the galaxy, they would use military force to stop them. On Council Station Prime, panic filled the emergency command center. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy about human installations revealing themselves and alien populations disappearing through dimensional gateways. "How many?" demanded Council member Vexatar, his forearms trembling with rage. "Preliminary reports suggest over 2 million beings have already chosen dimensional translation," replied a technician. "The number is growing every hour. Deploy." "All available fleets," Vextar ordered. "Shut down these human installations by force if necessary." Dr. Han So-young stood at the back of the command center, watching the chaos unfold. She had been analyzing the dimensional gateway technology and had made a disturbing discovery. "Council member," she said, stepping forward. "What is it, Dr. Han?" Thyra asked, her compound eyes focusing on the human scientist. "The gateways are not just escape routes. They are creating a network between dimensions. Each gateway makes the next one more stable and powerful." "What does that mean?" "It means that if enough beings choose dimensional translation, the network will become self-sustaining. Eventually, it will be possible to translate entire star systems without using any energy at all." The implications hit everyone in the room at the same time. If the human plan succeeded, they could potentially move every thinking being in the galaxy to safety before the purge system activated. "How long do we have?" Vextar asked quietly. So-young consulted her calculations. "If the current rate continues, the network will reach critical mass in approximately 48 hours. After that, dimensional translation will become as easy as stepping through a doorway. And if we try to stop them militarily? Our weapons cannot affect the gateways. They exist partially outside normal space-time. We would only be attacking empty installations while the humans continue their work from parallel dimensions." Vextar's arms fell to his sides in defeat. "So we have no choice but to watch as our entire civilization abandons us?" "There is one choice," So-young said quietly. "We could join them." The command center fell silent. Outside the massive windows, the stars seemed to flicker as dimensional gateways opened and closed throughout the galaxy. The Council's ordered universe was coming to an end, and something new was beginning to take its place. Far from Council, space, Millions of beings stood at the edges of dimensional gateways, making the most important decision in their species' history. Behind them lay everything they had ever known. Ahead lay infinite possibilities in dimensions where the rules of existence were written by consciousness itself rather than ancient machines. One by one, they began to step forward into the unknown. The day of the final translation arrived with quantum storms across the galaxy. Every remaining human agent activated their dimensional beacons simultaneously, creating a network of gateways that spanned from the galactic core to the outer rim, territories. Park Ji-woo stood on the observation deck of Kepler Academy, no longer hiding her true identity. The young woman who had seemed like just another student was actually one of the key architects of humanity's liberation plan. She had been placed at the Academy specifically to study how different species learned and thought. Through the massive windows, she could see dimensional gateways opening throughout the Kepler system. Ships from dozens of different species were arriving, carrying beings who had chosen to abandon their old lives for something unknown but unlimited. "Attention all species," Ji-woo broadcast through the Academy's communication system. "This is your final opportunity to join us in the new dimensions. The purge system will activate in less than 12 hours. Her roommate Kayla approached, her blue skin pale with fear and uncertainty. "Ji-woo, is it really true? Will everyone who stays behind die?" "Not die," Ji-woo replied gently. "But they will be reduced to primitive levels. Their technology will be destroyed, their cities will fall, and their descendants will have to start civilization over again. It has happened 7 times before in this galaxy's history. How can you be so calm about it?" Ji-woo turned from the window to face her friend. "Because we are offering everyone a choice. We cannot force beings to be free. We can only show them the door and let them decide whether to walk through it." Throughout the Academy, students and teachers were making their decisions. Some packed quickly and headed for the gateways. Others remained in their rooms, choosing the familiar over the unknown. Ji-woo respected both choices, even though she knew which one would lead to survival. On the other side of the galaxy, Moon Hye-kyung worked in the master control room of humanity's greatest achievement. The dimensional engineering station existed partially in 17 different dimensions simultaneously, making it impossible for Council forces to locate or attack. "Network status?" she called to her team of engineers. "All gateways are stable," reported one technician. "We have successful translations occurring on over 6,000 worlds." "How many beings have chosen to leave?" "Current count is approaching 1 billion. The rate is accelerating as more species see their neighbors making the transition successfully." Hye-kyung nodded, but her expression remained tense. The hardest part was still ahead. Creating gateways for individuals and small groups was relatively easy, but her calculations showed that they would need to translate entire star systems to save the species that were still undecided. "Begin preparing the stellar translation protocols," she ordered. "We may need to move whole civilizations whether they agree or not." The ethical implications troubled her, but the alternative was extinction for billions of thinking beings. Sometimes, salvation required making choices that others could not make for themselves. In the council chambers, the final emergency session was taking place. Half the seats were empty as representatives from various species had already chosen dimensional translation. Those who remained faced an impossible situation. Council member Thera clicked nervously as she addressed the assembly. "We have received reports that the humans are preparing to translate entire star systems. They claim it is necessary to save us from the purge." "It is an invasion," Vextar declared, though his voice lacked its usual strength. "They are destroying our civilization." "Are they?" asked a new voice from the chamber entrance. Ryu Sang-wook walked calmly into the room, his human diplomatic credentials somehow still functioning despite everything that had happened. "You," Vextar snarled, You are supposed to be dead with the rest of your species. Death is just another limitation we chose to transcend, Sang-wook replied peacefully. I am here to offer the Council the same choice we have offered everyone else. We will never abandon our galaxy to your dimensional madness. Sang-wook activated a holographic projector that showed the galactic core. Ancient machines were awakening, their energy signatures building toward critical levels. The purge system is fully active, he explained. In 8 hours, it will begin sterilizing every world with advanced technology. Your choice is not between staying and leaving. Your choice is between extinction and evolution. Thyra studied the hologram carefully. Her scientific training allowed her to understand the energy readings better than the other council members. These machines, she said quietly, they are older than any known civilization. Much older, Sang-wook confirmed. They were built by the first species to achieve galactic dominance. When they realized they could not control the universe, they created a system to ensure that no other species would surpass them. But you found a way around it. We found a way to transcend it. There are infinite dimensions where these machines have no power, where consciousness and creativity matter more than physical laws. Vexitar's forearms trembled with rage and fear. Even if we wanted to join you, how could we trust humans after all your deceptions? Sang-wook smiled sadly. You cannot. Trust requires time that we do not have. You must choose based on logic alone. Stay and face certain extinction, or leave and face uncertain possibilities. He placed a dimensional beacon on the chamber floor. This gateway will remain open for 2 hours. Any council member who wishes to leave may do so. Those who stay will be remembered with honor in the dimensions where we record history. As Sang-wook left the chamber, the council members stared at the beacon in silence. Outside the station's windows, dimensional gateways flickered like stars. Being born. On a small research vessel drifting between galaxies, young Anjun Seo monitored the final phase of humanity's greatest mission. At 19 years old, he was the youngest human involved in the translation project, but his role was perhaps the most important. All primary translations complete, he reported to the Dimensional Engineering Station. We have successfully relocated 2.3 billion beings to parallel dimensions. What about the holdouts? Came Moon Hee-kyung's voice through the communication system. Jun Seo looked at his sensors, which showed hundreds of star systems where populations had refused dimensional translation. They would rather face the purge than abandon their familiar reality. Beginning forced stellar translations, he announced, knowing that this decision would haunt him forever. He activated protocols that humanity had hoped never to use. Entire star systems began disappearing from normal space-time, translated to safe dimensions despite their inhabitants' wishes. It was the ultimate violation of free will, done in the name of preservation. As the last few hours counted down to the purge activation, Jun Seo watched civilizations vanish one by one into parallel realities. Some went willingly, others were taken by force, but all were saved from the ancient machines that had maintained galactic stagnation for millions of years. When the purge system finally activated, it found a galaxy empty of advanced life. The ancient machines searched for targets that no longer existed in their dimension. After scanning for several hours, they returned to dormancy, their programming satisfied that the galaxy had been successfully sterilized. In 17 different parallel dimensions, trillions of beings began building new civilizations, free from the cycles of controlled evolution. Some dimensions emphasized technological growth, others focused on spiritual development, and still others explored forms of existence that had no names in any language. Humanity had kept its promise. They had liberated every thinking species in the galaxy, whether those species had wanted liberation or not. The ethical questions would be debated in the new dimensions for generations to come. But in the silence of the purged galaxy, where only primitive life remained to start the cycle again, The ancient machines waited patiently for the next species to discover fire and begin the long climb toward the stars.